Now I want to segue to this. The Texans or the Colts, who's going to be better this season? Now, I got into an argument with one of my friends a couple of days ago, and he was saying that the Texans were going to be one of the worst teams in the league this year, and that Indianapolis was going to be the team to surprise people. And the reason why I think he kind of said that is because he's a Cardinals fan on the low, and he wants the Texans to be bad so the Cardinals can have another high draft pick. But I don't think that's going to happen. And I want to talk about why I think the Texans are going to be better than the Colts this season at 2023. Now, I get that Indianapolis, when you look at their offensive line, it isn't really bad. They just had a down year. So you're hoping that Shane Steichen can come in there and get some of those guys back to playing at the levels that they were prior to 2022. And then you look at what they have at receiver. They are a little bit better at receiver than what Houston is. But when you look at their quarterback situation, if they're starting Anthony Richardson, I think that's going to be a main reason why Houston ends up being better. CJ Stroud, he's going to be the more consistent quarterback. He's going to be the quarterback that's going to be more efficient. He's not going to be as streaky as Anthony Richardson. And I think he's going to have one of the better rookie seasons that we've seen in a very long time for some of the quarterbacks that have came out previously. And you got to remember that it was guys like Justin Herbert, Tua Tagovailoa, who had some concerns and doubters about them coming into the league, and they've been pretty well. So I think that when you look at CJ Stroud, I think he can come in and perform at the level that those guys did their rookie seasons. And I think he's capable of giving you like a Justin Herbert-like rookie season. I think he's that good. He has really good accuracy downfield. He also has more mobility than what we initially thought he had prior to seeing his game against Georgia. The only main issue that I have with CJ Stroud is that I don't really think that he's good throwing the football on the run. So outside of that, I think that CJ Stroud right now is just a better quarterback than Anthony Richardson in every phase of the game, outside of when it comes to the ability to extend plays and get outside the pocket and pick up yards with your legs. I feel like right now, Anthony Richardson is a better athlete than he is a quarterback right now. So when you have a quarterback like Anthony Richardson at the helm, you can win games with that. Of course, Shane Steichen is going to build a system if Anthony Richardson gets to start around that athleticism. But even then, you have DeMeco Ryans that you're going to be going up against, who is a defensive mind. And everybody questions, are defensive minds good to have when you got a rookie quarterback? But he got a offensive coordinator that was under Kyle Shanahan's staff, and Kyle Shanahan has a pretty good coaching tree so far. We saw how good of a play caller Mike McDaniels is, so I'm pretty sure that the offensive coordinator they have for Houston is going to be perfectly fine with CJ Stroud. And CJ Stroud is the kind of quarterback, you got to be really, really awful calling the plays for CJ Stroud not to be a good quarterback. CJ Stroud should at least be a top 15 quarterback at worst. So when you look at CJ Stroud, it's going to take a lot around him to not work for him to just be completely inefficient. And when you look at Anthony Richardson, there's just going to be moments where he's just going to be inefficient because he doesn't have a lot of experience and he still has a good amount to work on when it comes to his passing. Now, he isn't going to be as bad as what a lot of people expect, but I think that Anthony Richardson is going to be one of those QBs that if he has to throw the football more than 18 times in a game against you, you're looking at that and you're licking your chops. Because the Indianapolis Colts are going to be in trouble. If Indianapolis is a team that gets down early and they got to start throwing the football and they got to abandon the run game more than what they would like to, then Indianapolis is going to be put at a disadvantage with Anthony Richardson because he's not that great of a passer right now in his career. Now, like I said, I don't think he's going to be bad. I don't think he's going to be dirt awful, but I'm just saying there's a certain level of inconsistency that comes when you have a guy like Anthony Richardson at quarterback. We saw the growing pains with Lamar Jackson his rookie season. We seen them with Jalen Hurts his second season, his first year under Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen. And we saw that last season with Justin Fields. So it's these mobile QBs, even though they have great potential to be dynamic dual threat QBs, they normally tend to struggle the first couple of years into their career as they progress as passers. So I think that it's going to take at least a year for Anthony Richardson to get to a consistent level where he's a respectable passer every single game. So when I look at the Houston Texans, them having the guy who's going to be more consistent at QB, I don't think their offensive line is that bad. I think their offensive line is pretty solid. And they got a really good running back in Dameon Pierce. He was one of the best rookie running backs in the league last year. Now, he ain't nothing like Jonathan Taylor, but I think that Indianapolis is probably going to be a little bit more flashy than Houston. But I think Houston is going to be the more productive offense this year. And when you look at these defenses, now Indianapolis has a really good defensive line. You got Kwity Paye, you got DeForest Buckner. We also can't forget about Darius Leonard, one of the best linebackers in the league. But I don't really like their secondary. I think their secondary is pretty questionable. You got Julius Brent out there, and he could end up going off, but I think he could end up struggling at times. He is somebody who is kind of a little bit handsy. He is prone to get some pass interference calls there. So I think when you look at the defense that Houston is going to have this year, I think they're going to have a top 10 defense. And you may be like, JT, you're crazy if you think that Houston's going to have a top 10 defense, man.
Damn!
But I think that Houston, their defense with DeMeco Ryans being at the helm, I think is going to be drastically improved. You got a really good secondary. You got Jimmy Ward, Jalen Petrie. That's going to be one of the best safety duos in the NFL. You got Derek Stingley at cornerback. Like, he was held back by Lovie Smith and the system that Lovie Smith had him in last season. Plus, he had some injuries that he was dealing with. Now, I don't think their pass rush is going to be as good as what Indianapolis is. But you do have Will Anderson, who is a guy who's expected to come in and have at least 7 to 8 sacks his rookie year. Now, I don't think he's going to come in and give you Nick Bosa as a rookie. You hope he ends up doing that, but I think he's more somebody who's going to come in and give you 7, 8 sacks as a rookie, which I think would be pretty solid. They also have Jonathan Grenard, somebody who had a really good season in 2021, but last year he dealt with injuries and he was just held back by the lack of coaching. And then I think that this linebacking core is going to be pretty solid. You got Corey Littleton and Denzel Perryman. Denzel Perryman has been playing some of the best football of his career over the last 2 years, previously being a Pro Bowler not too long ago with the Las Vegas Raiders. And Corey Littleton, I think he played pretty solid last year. So you got DeMeco Ryans, somebody who played linebacker, somebody who played that position at one of the highest levels in the league. I think that Houston's linebacking core is going to be pretty solid this year. And when you look at Indianapolis defense, you know, I really think they're going to struggle when it comes to their secondary. I think that Houston, although they're not as talented as Indianapolis up front, I do give Indianapolis the advantage there. I think that they're going to be better at every single other position than Indianapolis this year. And I'm not just talking about single player performances. Like, we know what Darius Leonard brings to the table, but I don't think they have another good linebacker outside of him on their roster right now. So overall as a team, I think that Houston is going to be better than Indianapolis. I think that with DeMeco Ryans being a defensive-minded coach, they are going to have the best defense in the AFC South, which is going to give teams like the Jaguars problems. Anthony Richardson is going to struggle if, you know, DeMeco Ryans ends up being able to implement everything that he wants to implement during his first year. And when you got a defensive-minded coach and you're in the division with a lot of young QBs like Anthony Richardson, you're kind of licking your chops because Anthony Richardson is a guy who still is learning the game. So if you can throw like some really complex looks at him, you can have a game where he just ends up struggling and you're a divisional foe, so you get to play them again. So you get an opportunity that if you're the DeMeco Ryans, you potentially could have 2 wins if Indianapolis ends up being the week 1 starter, because it's going to be hard for him being able to have success against a DeMeco Ryans coach defense that's going to be able to throw a lot of different things at him from a pre-snap standpoint. And then you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars. I still think the Jaguars can win this division, but I think the Texans can end up being the second best team right behind them. You got a team that's going to be really good defensively. And I think for Houston, you look at the fact that you're going against a Jaguars team that they had their moments last year when they were armed, but they also had their moments where they were really streaky. And one thing about Trevor Lawrence is that sometimes he can start the game off a little bit rough. And when you look at that Houston Texans defense, like, it's going to be able to get that Jaguars offense off the field. And this offense isn't going to be terrible. Like, this is going to be a pretty solid and serviceable offense. Like, they don't got a lot of playmakers at receiver like the Jaguars do, but I think they have enough to be consistent. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to be able to win this division from Jacksonville, but I do think that they will be better than the Titans, the Colts. I don't think that the Titans and the Colts are going to be all that good this year. The Colts are going to have inexperience at QB. And you look at the Titans, I just don't think they got a good team, although they possibly could have a really underrated defense. And the Jaguars, like, they're probably going to win this division. But behind them, I like the Texans. So when you look at the Indianapolis Colts overall, it's like, the Anthony Richardson experience is going to be a lot of inconsistency. It's going to be a lot of flash, but it's also going to be a lot of Anthony Richardson.
Come on now, dog. Come on, man.
So I think the Texans are going to be better than the Colts this year. And for you Colts fans that say, well, what if they start Gardner Minshew? I mean, I still would like the Texans to be better than the Colts, even with Gardner Minshew. I think Gardner Minshew is a serviceable starter, but I just think with how good the Texans defense is going to be this year, like, that's going to be a large reason why they have so much success. Because when you have a young QB, like, one thing that's kind of overlooked is him having a great defense that can bail him out. Like, look at Kenny Pickett with the Pittsburgh Steelers last year. He threw hell of interceptions during his first couple of games, but the Steelers still had opportunities to win those games due to them being able to get the ball back to him and them saying, hey, like, we got your back if you make a mistake. So for the Texans, man, like, I think a lot of people are really overlooking this team, man. Like, I saw somebody on Twitter the other day say that he thinks that the Colts possibly could be a playoff team. I was like, what? Come on, man.
Stop it. Get some help.
Like, come on. The Colts, like, if they end up making it to the playoffs, I won't know what to believe anymore. Honestly.